baby arrived at the emergency room blue. Not bruised, not cold, painted, from head to toe, covered in iridescent pigment that glistened under the trauma bay lights. His breathing was shallow. His skin was hot. His eyes were wild. He was 5 months old. The ER staff thought it was chemical exposure. Then they looked closer. The blue wasn't accidental. It was applied deliberately, with care, with layers. While nurses stabilized the infant, one intern searched the parents online. What she found stopped everything. A blog, a brand, nearly 1 million followers, photos, videos, streams. The same child, blue, silent, in costume, a plastic UFO crib. Captions like Xeno 092 begins Earth adaptation and First Contact, cereal versus formula. One video showed the child crying as digital static flashed over the screen. Alien Meltdown, the title read. The video had 2.1 million views. CPS was called before the blood panel came back. The baby survived. But something was already broken. And now, in a quiet courtroom in downtown Los Angeles, his parents sit behind a desk. And the world watches to see whether the law still knows what to do with people who turn their children into content.
This hearing is now in session. Case number 519C. The State of California versus Emily Carson and Tyler Carson.
All rise.
You may be seated. This court will now hear evidence concerning the alleged endangerment and exploitation of a minor child by his legal guardians under California Penal Code, Sections 273A, 311.3 and 16501.6. Prosecution, you may begin.
Thank you, Your Honor. The facts of this case are not hidden. They are public. They were published, broadcast, monetized. What we have is a 5-month-old child, non-verbal, non-consenting, repeatedly filmed and distributed online as part of a constructed science fiction persona. He was painted with synthetic pigments not approved for infant use. He was placed under stage lighting, surrounded by props, and often depicted crying or overstimulated for comedic or thematic effect. In multiple posts, his distress was intentionally reframed as alien communication failure, malfunction, or signal loss. One post included a direct merchandise link, a onesie that read, "I scream in binary." Another used an audio filter to distort his crying into robotic static with a laughing emoji caption. The child was hospitalized on March 12th following an anaphylactic episode directly linked to the repeated use of theatrical pigment on his skin. That event, the ER admission, triggered this case. But it should not have taken that long, because before the ER, there were already signs. Rashes, swelling, vomiting, and the cameras never stopped, because every frame was part of the character, and every click meant revenue. We will present expert witnesses, pediatricians, child psychologists, digital monetization analysts, who will show that this conduct was not creative parenting. It was negligence, willful, sustained, monetized negligence. We will show that the Carsons knew what they were doing, that they were warned, that they chose the story over the safety, that they weren't filming a baby, they were producing a product. We are not here because someone made a bad video. We are here because someone built a business on a child who couldn't say no.
Defense, your response.
Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen, we do not intend to deny what was posted. We do not intend to pretend that mistakes weren't made. What we do intend to show is that those mistakes were not criminal, that they were not malicious, that they came from ignorance, not exploitation, that they were the product of a deeply broken digital culture, one that rewards shock, spectacle, and performance over restraint and care. Emily and Tyler Carson are not monsters. They are first-time parents in a system that told them visibility was value. They believed the paint was safe. They followed others who did similar things. They thought they were being funny, creative, different. When the incident happened, they didn't lie. They didn't run. They called 911. They cooperated. They pulled every sponsorship. They stopped everything. What this court must decide is not whether they failed. They did. It must decide whether failure in this context means permanent loss of parental rights, whether the consequences of a culture-addicted world should land entirely on the shoulders of two scared young people who truly, truly love their son.
The court will now proceed to the evidence phase. Prosecution, call your first witness.
The people call Dr. Sarah Linton to the stand.
Please state your name and credentials for the record.
Dr. Sarah Ann Linton, board-certified pediatric emergency physician, lead attending at West Valley Children's Hospital for the past 8 years.
Dr. Linton, were you on duty the night of March 12th?
Yes, I was in triage when the child was brought in by ambulance.
Can you describe his condition?
He was cyanotic, which means he had a bluish discoloration from lack of oxygen, although in this case, the blue pigment was also applied externally. His breathing was labored. He had facial swelling, a visible rash on the chest and upper back, and his oxygen saturation was 78%.
Is that a dangerous level?
It's critical. Anything below 90% is considered hypoxic in infants. Below 80% is life-threatening.
What treatment did you provide?
We administered intramuscular epinephrine immediately, followed by oxygen support and intravenous fluids. He responded within minutes, but we admitted him to PICU for observation due to the severity of the allergic reaction.
Were you able to identify the cause?
The parents voluntarily gave us the product they had used, a cosmetic-grade paint labeled non-toxic, not intended for children under 3. Lab analysis confirmed a compound known to trigger histamine response in infants.
Was this the first time the child had been exposed?
The parents told us no. They said they had used similar products weekly for their content.
In your opinion, was this an accident?
It was preventable. This wasn't a single lapse. It was repeated exposure to an untested substance. From a medical perspective, it was recklessness.
Dr. Linton, did the parents resist treatment?
They were visibly distressed. The mother cried through most of the exam. The father stayed at the foot of the bed.
So they did not act indifferent?
But concern in crisis doesn't erase patterns of risk.
Thank you, Doctor. Linton, you may step down.
The people call Daniel Ruiz, child protection investigator.
Mr. Ruiz, state your credentials.
Senior investigator with Los Angeles County CPS. 12 years in field operations. I specialize in digital-related endangerment and caregiver neglect.
You visited the Carson's residence the day after the ER visit?
Yes. March 13th, 8:40 a.m.
What did you observe?
The main living space had been converted into a video set. One wall was painted with stars and moons. There were 2 softbox lights still powered on. A white crib had been altered with neon strips and plastic console decals. The bedding included foil-wrapped bumpers. A boom mic was positioned above the crib rail. There was a camera mounted near the mobile.
Was there evidence of paint?
Yes. Open jars on a side table. Brushes in a baby bottle sterilizer. One jar was labeled Galactic Blue, Theatrical Shimmer.
Did the parents acknowledge using the paint on the child?
Yes. They said it was part of a series. They called it Weekly Integration Logs.
Did they appear concerned?
They said they never thought it could go that far.
Mr. Ruiz, did you observe physical signs of abuse?
No bruising, no lacerations, no fractures.
Did the child appear malnourished?
Number growth percentiles were within normal range.
Did the child show positive reactions to the parents?
Yes. He oriented to their voices, reached for the mother, smiled briefly when the father approached.
So the bond was intact?
In basic terms, yes. but bond doesn't cancel harm.
The people called Dr. Rachel Hahn, expert in digital childhood development.
Please state your qualifications.
Rachel Hahn, Ph.D. in Developmental Psychology, UC Berkeley. I've published multiple peer-reviewed studies on infant response to visual overstimulation and serve as an advisor to the California Department of Family Media Safety.
Dr. Hahn, did you review the blog content produced by the Carsons?
I reviewed 41 long-form videos, 26 short clips, and associated caption text and hashtags from the public profile, Raising Our Alien.
In your opinion, did these materials present a harmful environment for an infant?
Yes. The child is repeatedly exposed to high-contrast lighting, synthetic audio distortion, and tactile constraint from costuming. He is frequently filmed during episodes of distress, arching, flailing, avoiding visual engagement, without any apparent soothing attempt. These are behaviors consistent with sensory overload and dysregulation.
Can these patterns cause lasting harm?
Yes. Infants rely on caregiver response to shape their regulatory systems. When discomfort is ignored or reframed as entertainment, it disrupts emotional mapping and undermines secure attachment. This doesn't just impact emotional development, it rewires trust.
Do you believe the Carsons understood this?
Based on their captions and scripting, they understood their child's responses and assigned meaning to them. But the meaning served the narrative, not the child.
Dr. Hahn, are you saying all family video content is harmful?
No, but monetized, serialized performance built on a child's image, especially a non-consenting infant, carries developmental risk when it prioritizes spectacle over comfort.
Could this risk be unintentional?
Yes, but the result is the same for the child.
Thank you. You may step down.
The people call Erica Ramos, digital monetization analyst.
Credentials?
Erica Ramos, consultant on platform monetization and advertising ethics. I hold a degree in media economics from Columbia and have worked on cases involving influencer income abuse and child image rights.
Ms. Ramos, did you audit the Carsons blog?
Yes. Over a 7-month period, their content earned an estimated $73,400. Income came from 5 revenue streams: direct ad views, sponsored mentions, affiliate links, merchandise, and channel memberships.
Was the child featured in all monetized content?
In 94% of posts during that window, the child was present and framed as the central subject. In most, he was the only speaking point, even if he did not speak.
Did the content with higher distress levels perform better?
Yes. Posts labeled Xeno Glitch, Alien Meltdown, or Emotional Static averaged 3.4 times higher engagement. One video titled Baby vs. Earth Gravity, Xeno Screams for Home had over 2.7 million views and was tied to a merch drop.
Did any post warn of fictionalization?
No, all content was presented as real-time family activity with an alien roleplay layer, but no formal disclaimer.
Would a viewer know this was a character?
Adults maybe, children, probably not. But regardless, the baby wasn't acting. The reactions were real. The framework was imposed.
Ms. Ramos, is monetization itself illegal?
No. But it becomes legally risky when the performer lacks capacity to consent and when distress is commodified.
Did the Carsons attempt to hide revenue?
No, their financial links were public. But disclosure of paid promotion was inconsistent and sometimes absent, a violation of FTC guidelines.
The people call Emily Carson to the stand.
Mrs. Carson, you understand that you are testifying under oath?
I do.
When did you first begin filming your son for online content?
When he was about 3 weeks old, it started with pictures. then a short video. Then Tyler suggested we try something serialized.
Did you think of your child as a character?
At first, no, but it became easier to manage him that way. Zeno cried differently than our baby. Zeno could be joked about.
Did you feel he was suffering?
I didn't let myself think about it. I told myself babies cry, that he was just expressive.
Did you ever stop filming during distress?
Rarely. Tyler would say, "It's just a few more minutes, we can fix it in post." And I believed him.
What were you afraid of?
Losing momentum, losing audience, losing what we built.
Did you love your son?
Yes. I forgot to show it in private.
Emily, did you want to hurt him?
Never,
Why are you here today?
because I let the story matter more than he did.
You may step down. Mr. Carson, please approach.
Mr. Carson, who managed the blog?
I did. I edited, posted, optimized. I studied what worked and repeated it.
Did distress work?
Yes? People engaged when he screamed, when he looked weird, when he looked not human.
Did you coach him?
He was 5 months old. I couldn't coach him. I could only provoke.
Did you ever think of stopping?
I did. But we had contracts, momentum. I felt trapped, and I liked being someone, being the guy with the alien baby.
Did it ever feel like exploitation?
It does now. Then, it felt like a project.
Tyler, what would you say to your son?
That I loved him badly. That I thought fame would make him special. But it made him vulnerable.
Do you believe you should lose him?
I don't know what I believe anymore.
The people called Dr. Janine Ellis, child trauma psychiatrist.
Please state your credentials.
Janine Ellis, MD in psychiatry, subspecialty in infant trauma. I consult for both the Department of Health and the Juvenile Dependency Court in California.
Dr. Ellis, did you evaluate the Carson child?
I reviewed his behavioral assessments, observed parent-child interactions during supervised visits, and analyzed footage of the content posted online.
What did you conclude?
The child shows symptoms of hypervigilance, disrupted self-soothing patterns, and elevated sensitivity to light and noise. These are early indicators of complex sensory stress.
Is this consistent with trauma?
Not trauma as in abuse or violence, trauma as in prolonged exposure to overwhelming stimuli without appropriate buffering from caregivers.
Could this affect development?
Yes. If unaddressed, it could impair emotional regulation, trust formation, and later social adaptation.
Dr. Ellis, is this reversible?
With proper care and a stable, low-stimulation environment, yes, in most cases.
Do you believe Emily and Tyler Carson are capable of providing that?
That depends entirely on whether they prioritize the child over the content and whether they remain offline.
Thank you, Dr. Ellis. The court has no further questions.
The courtroom feels colder now. The videos are off. The evidence has been seen. The crying has no filters. And the decision is no longer in views but in the law.
This court has reviewed all testimony, visual evidence, medical records, financial documents, and the full scope of digital content created by the defendants, Emily and Tyler Carson, under the brand known as Raising Our Alien. The court finds that the child in question, referred to as Zeno092 online, was subjected to sustained sensory stress, repeated use of chemical pigments not approved for infants, and willful misrepresentation of his distress for commercial purposes. While the defendants did not act with criminal intent in the conventional sense, their conduct represents a sustained failure of judgment, driven by an obsession with audience engagement at the expense of their child's comfort, health, and dignity. This court does not find sufficient legal grounds to permanently terminate parental rights, but it does find that continued unsupervised custody presents an unacceptable risk to the child's development. Therefore, custody shall remain with the Department of Child Services for a minimum period of 6 months. Both parents shall attend and complete a certified parental rehabilitation program, including coursework in child psychology, digital ethics, and nonverbal infant communication. Supervised visitation will be permitted on a weekly basis at a state-monitored facility. All digital content involving the child in any form must be removed from public platforms within 10 calendar days. Any attempt to monetize the child's likeness, past or future, will constitute a direct violation of this ruling and grounds for immediate reconsideration of custody. The court will review the parent's progress after 6 months and determine if reunification is appropriate based on expert evaluations and compliance. Until such review is completed, the child shall remain under state protection.